Hey guys, and welcome to another video with your favorite space pirate, Dread Captain James. Today's video will be covering Diablo 4, and since it's moved on to Steam and been verified on the Steam Deck, I decided to test it out and show what the experience is like. So, stick around, as I'm going to go over a lot of the settings and decide which is the overall best in my opinion, and I'm going to do it in a way that's easy to understand and apply. That being said, let's go ahead and jump right in. These first 90 seconds are completely done on PC, my gaming rig, and they are a solid 60 FPS as that's what my capture card is limited to. But that being said, you can see exactly how smooth and what ultra settings look like across the board at full 1080p. That being the case, the Steam Deck will be running at 720 as that's what it outputs in gaming mode. As we boot up, there are not a lot of differences to be detected. Once the game loads, the similarities are pretty striking, but it does hang for a second due to a load lag. This is all default settings, which I believe to be set to medium. Honestly, it's close to 60 FPS in town, and that's actually pretty surprising. Low settings. I told you we were going to run through a lot of settings, so starting with low, moving up through ultra, let's check them all out. I noticed that changing overall quality in-game would cause a crash, which isn't great, so each time I made a change I was forced to drop out to the main menu. Loading in low settings, 60 FPS in town is pretty standard, and it runs very smoothly. Textures look like garbage though, and while this is fine in handheld mode, I couldn't bear it. This is 100% totally playable, don't get me wrong, but it's not that pretty. Medium settings. Medium settings look really good, and I did encounter a pretty sizable load lag, which isn't normal, but aside from that, it looked amazing, and it only cost us about 10 FPS. And I'll admit, that is a lot, but in town is the biggest choke point I've come across. Details look amazing here, but I think this thing can take a bit more, so let's go to high. High settings. High settings back in town put us around the same FPS, maybe slightly lower, and it looks incredible. 50 FPS and higher with beautiful detail and no lag. I took it out to the fields and the tundra to see if combat would display any lag, and there was none whatsoever. High settings were extremely impressive. But once you go high, you're gonna have to go to ultra next. Ultra settings. When you go to high, you have to try ultra next. I got to admit, this did not disappoint, as everything is now turned all the way up and I was still getting close to 60 FPS in combat. That meant we needed to see town in ultra, which dropped down to 30 FPS. If the whole game can be played above 30 FPS in ultra, this is already a massive win in my book, considering this is on handheld. Okay, so we've already established that ultra can be played. Now it's time to start adding in FSR. So we're going to add in AMD FSR 1. And we're going to see exactly how that works. I have it set to FSR 1.0 and set to balanced while still being at ultra settings. In town, FPS was around the mid 40s and lower 50s, so there was a big improvement there. The picture gets a tiny bit blurry though, as to be expected, and in handheld mode, this is amazing. I took to the tundra and into a dungeon and consistently stayed in the mid 50s to 60 FPS. This was very solid as far as testing goes, and it looked great. Now that we understand FSR 1, let's move into FSR 2. Everything was looking good in FSR 1 until I applied FSR 2. The blurriness has all but disappeared, and artifacting or ghosting has been reduced significantly. It's hard to tell that there's any resolution scaling happening at all, and the frame rates look just as good with 40s in town and 60 FPS in combat in dungeons.
I'm out of fury.
At this point, I had to set it to performance to see what would happen, and as far as frame rate went, it wasn't much of an improvement and looked pretty bad by comparison. So I switched it to quality to see what would happen, and it looked better with slightly lower frames, which I'm still having a hard time coming to grips with. It looked good enough to play the whole game like this, but let's keep looking. I even jumped into a world event to put it through its paces, and during that event, it did drop down into the 30 FPS range, but was still totally usable. At this point, I was pretty sure that this was a winning setting, but I thought I could still crank out some more frames, so I set the overall quality to high. And oh my god, do we have a winner. This is it. This is the spot. This is the sweet spot you want. Consistently high FPS, and it's absolutely beautiful. Frames in town are in the mid 40s, combat in the tundra sitting at 60 FPS, and dungeons were mid 50s to 60 FPS. I was so comfortable playing this, I almost forgot I wasn't on my PC. This is absolutely wonderful, and I think this is 100% the way to go on the deck, both docked and handheld. So to be clear, the winning settings here are overall set to high, AMD FSR 2.0 set to quality. It's as easy as that, and you gotta try this. I'm telling you, this is fantastic. Okay, so there you have it. Diablo 4 running on a Steam Deck on high settings, actually capable of ultra, honestly, but 60 frames a second with no trouble at all, looking fabulous. I can't begin to tell you how shocked I was to see this happen. As I played around making changes each time, I grew more and more shocked. You wouldn't expect the deck to be able to handle it, but it continuously shrugged off higher settings, and honestly, it's a little beast that keeps surprising me. If you use similar settings, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what tweaks you've made and how they've helped improve this. I did this as basic as I could so it would be easy for anyone to do it quickly and easily as booting up the game and going straight to the settings and not having to mess around with anything else. I hope you found this as fascinating as I did, and I wish you many hundreds or thousands of hours in dungeons slaying the forces of evil, either at home or on the go. And don't forget to hit the thumbs up on the video if you liked it, and drop a sub to the channel if you haven't already. Both of these things help the channel grow in very powerful ways, and you're a total legend if you do that. Also, if you'd like to come and chat, I'm live daily at twitch.tv/DreadCaptainJames, so swing by and hang out. We can talk about things. All right, that wraps it for this one. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.